for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. First up, Commissioners, we have approval of minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Next up, discussion of last meeting's calendar. Is there any discussion, any questions?
Aye.
Nor do I. So we'll move on to previously signed documents.
Approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries and it's unanimous. Next up, we have the Jlmc updates.
This is just a memo from the Joint Loss Management Committee. They've met quarterly and they're updating you on the progress they've made as they inspect all the buildings and the various departments.
Anything further?
Nothing further. If you don't have questions about
Were
it.
any of these items, if they were still unresolved, included in the budget requests or?
I don't believe. Do you know, Jamie? Are there any unresolved? Or Dustin, you're on there?
Yeah, there would be money to fix the walkway from the employee entrance into the.
There is money in the budget for it?
Yeah, I've covered.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's pretty insignificant. It's a small, it's a short walkway. It's pretty rough. It was like the walkway coming up from.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Is there any questions? No. Then we'll move on to our financial updates. Lori, nice to see you. A woman who's wearing a couple of extra hats this week, I understand.
This week, huh? Yes. All right. First thing we'll look at is the cash flow. And although it's, I hate to kind of say it is what it is at this point, but we're in December. So it's just really kind of pointing out where we're expecting to end the year. And so we're looking at a cash position that we're projecting of $5,080,000. Obviously, we try to project the best we can with expenses and revenue, with no surprises. We hope for, then we should be right around that number of $5,080,000.
And what's the, I guess, cash balance of the ARP funds that would be in addition to this 5 million?
It's actually calculated into this number already. Are you referring to, oh, no.
So we got $5.9 million in ARP funds that we paid some out. So
Yeah.
is this inclusive of that 5.9, or is there funds that need to be added to this? Say what our total operating cash is in-house or invested. Everything would be higher than 5 million.
So, because, I'm sorry, I guess I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
Okay, is this $5 million the cash in just one bank account?
Yes.
And then there's funds available. So how much is the funds in the other account? So we pool all that together, that is the cash of the county. How much is that?
I don't have that number right in front of me to, I can't think. I mean, it's going to be, we got the 5.9. And we have the 5.08 going into the new year.
But we spent some of that 5.9, right? So, or is that also sitting there?
Has it even transferred to the general fund yet?
That's taken into consideration. So we have the, I mean, we've spent some of it on the premium pay,
Right?
and that's taking into account
Okay.
in this number.
So what's the balance that is held in the short-term investment account?
So it's, I think the amount that we've spent on the premium pay is close to 600,000. So it's going to be the 5.9 less the 600,000.
So there's additional roughly $5.3 million of cash available.
Yeah, yes. Sorry. That would be that balance.
Can you include that in our cash flow going forward so that we know how cash investments on hand is?
Or maybe we'd have to put in a separate column because part of our problem is not knowing next year how that money is going to be spent.
Mhm.
but we can include it as a separate column to show it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, just a separate ARPA kind of column.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, the next thing you have is the receivable balance and history. Really not a lot of change happening here. It's accounts receivable through November, and at the next meeting in January where we do a financial update, I'll have an amount of a recommended write-off at that time, and that's once we have all of December's numbers in for receivables. Looking at the revenue, last month, the revenue was $1,097,000, a shortfall of $1,097,000. This month, it's $1,152,000. So that's a change of $54,865 more of a shortfall. And it's just really due to changes that we made in the nursing home revenue. And that's just after review of actual expenses and kind of cleaning up where we're really landing, truing up those numbers, the projections. Really kind of the same thing with the expense. Last month, we showed a surplus of $1,232,000. This month, we're showing a surplus of $1,263,000. It's only a $31,000 difference of additional surplus. I mean, that's good. And it's due to many different changes in several areas of just looking at the projections, looking at the expense actuals, and just truing up where everything should be.
Lori, how much was that additional surplus again?
31,000. So that's my monthly report.
Commissioners, any questions so far?
No.
The next thing we had is a request to encumber. We're requesting to encumber $12,323 from the premium pay line for the ARPA funds, and also $697,449 on the ARPA projects line. And these, it's a total of $709,772. And these are amounts that were approved to be spent, and so that they don't fall into the fund balance, we would encumber those amounts so that we're able to use them in 2022. And that was, so that request is for that. And so ultimately, I believe we're looking for your approval to do that.
Okay, this is something we agreed on a short time ago. And I see this, commissioners, as a formality. Are there any questions, any concerns?
So I just want to understand, so the 697,449, that's for all the bolded items left, except for the premium paid listed item?
Correct, yes.
Numbers out.
I'll make a motion to encumber the funds as detailed in this memo.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
And then the final thing, I think, that I have is a request to transfer. It's a request to transfer 24,000 out of contingency into maintenance into two separate lines. One, the county complex repair and maintenance line for 18,000, and then the other is the courthouse repairs line for 6,000. Those are due to the cleaning and repair of sewerage, and that leaked into the hallway out here in the sheriff's department, and then the other is due to the pipe that burst in the courthouse.
This is something that we've discussed, commissioners. I think we discussed part of this last week, and Justin went into greater explanation of what went wrong and what corrective measures were taken to ensure it doesn't happen again.
And there was a claim submitted to Primex.
It was denied, correct?
Which was denied.
Okay. So I move that we accept this budget transfer request.
I'll second. I do have a.
Please.
So in looking at the county maintenance department, some of these expenses not been picked up in the year-end projected because we're projecting the county maintenance department to only have a shortfall of 12.5.
Oh, sorry, your report, is that report a week old?
It's dated through 12/15. Year-to-date expenditures. through
All right,
12/15.
yeah, it really only needed, this came up last night.
Yesterday.
So the revised projection as of 4:30 yesterday, we found out about these other invoices that need to be paid and had not been entered, are putting it over by $20,507. $18,848 in the county complex repair and $6,000 over in the courthouse repair line.
So the difference between the projected that you have and the projected I have is additional costs to these two lines that are listed in the transfer request.
That's right, that were not, they're existing invoices that have not been entered in the system yet, or hadn't been, I don't know if they are or not now, but we know about them now. And then it is rounded up a little because this budget is so tight that if the water and sewer bill comes in higher or oil, electricity, any little thing, we don't want to have another small overage when we get the final bills at the end of the year.
So that accounts for the discrepancy.
That's right.
All right, we have a motion on the table. It's been seconded to accept this budget transfer request. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Lori, thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions for Lori? She was-
I do not.
Okay, next up, we have Sheriff Wright. Good evening, Sheriff. How are you?
Not bad. I actually have asked Chief Deputy Nedu to be here tonight to do this presentation on the grant. He's worked extensively on helping write the grant and research the grant, so he'd be best suited to answer any questions you might have in the presentation.
Hopefully. So good evening. Thank you for your time to consider these items we have before you tonight. We're asking for two separate grants. They both come out of the same program. It's the 2022 Competitive Homeland Security Grant through New Hampshire Homeland Security. This year's grant focuses on terrorism preparedness, prevention, and recovery strategies. They have 5 main goals that they're really looking at: cybersecurity, enhancing the protection of soft targets in crowded areas, enhancing information intelligence sharing and analysis, in combating domestic violence, extremism, and addressing emergent threats. The first grant that we're doing is for the command post that we have. We bought that command post in 2005. We've had 0 technology upgrades or any upgrades at all other than general maintenance. And seeing this grant, we thought it was a great opportunity to address some of those issues. As close as 2019, we've had some major incidents. Every year, Gunstock hosts Soulfest, which is a Christian music festival. In 2019, we had a threat of an active shooter that we worked with FBI on and other agencies. We deployed our command post to that for the weekend and utilized it to run command out of in case something happened in preparation for that. In doing that, we kind of noticed some shortcomings of the command post. We use that as kind of a model to build it to what we think we need to do. If you look through the packets that you have, should be the one with the should have the application right in front. If you look in that packet in the back of it, you're going to see 4 different quotes. The quotes go through all the equipment that we need to run the inside of it. That is radios, software. Our goal is to have 2 standalone dispatch consoles in there. that we could run a dispatch center out of if need be and use that for a command vehicle. Those dispatch centers are going to mirror what we have in our existing dispatch center right now. So there'd be very little difference if we took one of our dispatchers and put it in there. The other upgrades on the interior are obviously all new radios, backup radios that if we have a major incident and somebody shows up, we'd be able to give them batteries or radios. On the external portion of the vehicle, we're looking to add some scene lighting that doesn't have any scene lighting right now. We're going to add some surveillance cameras. So we'd have 360 coverage around the vehicle. And then just some general maintenance stuff with stuff that's kind of out of date or needs to be repaired. So that encompasses that and all those quotes. The sheriff and I feel it's very, very important that we have a suitable command post to run any command that would need to be in the county or surrounding areas. Right now, that's kind of used solely as a SWAT vehicle. We're looking to expand that, to use it as emergency dispatch center, use it as a command vehicle for anything that may happen, either for the county or surrounding community. And we look to gain your support.
Thank you, Deputy Sheriff. So the total grant request is at $165,077.
The total grant is $165,77.
And when did you start writing this grant?
So we got the grant, it opened about 4 weeks ago. In the process of looking at what we're going to apply for grants for, we took a little bit of time to sit down and talk about what were major needs. So the first week was kind of spent doing that, and it's due on the 22nd. We've had a hard time getting some quotes for some of the stuff. We got a quote as soon as 2 hours ago for some of the work that needs to be done outside the vehicle.
So you have to have it submitted by next Wednesday.
Noontime on the 22nd.
And what is the timetable for when you're back if the grant is accepted?
I believe it's the middle of next year. June, I believe. It's in the packet. Let me. It's for fiscal year 22 is when they look to spend the money. And I believe it's June.
Do you have any indication as to the likelihood that the grant amount will be accepted?
I think we wrote a really good grant. I hope that they agree with us. It's obviously still in the process now. We're still working on it. I feel confident about it, but I have no crystal ball to say that it would or wouldn't do.
So the case you're making then is that the equipment you're looking for this grant to purchase, the existing equipment dating back to 2005 is hopelessly outdated and inadequate.
Yeah, and some of it's at the verge of breaking. It works. Some of the radios sometimes don't work. Sometimes it does work. The equipment needs to be replaced one way or another. We felt that the grant was a good opportunity to do that.
One of the benefits to this entire program is that it meets all the criteria. So because we operate as a regional department, and we make our equipment and personnel available to all regional aspects. And that doesn't only include Belknap County, it's also the additional counties that are that surround us. This is it fits all the check blocks within the criteria for meeting the grants. And they actually encourage other counties to respond to grants like we do. Downside is they're always such short. We would have come to you at the last meeting, but we didn't even have like anything near quotes or anything to sit in front of you to say, we want to apply for a grant. We had no idea what, we were still trying to figure out what it actually covered. Radios were one of the things that was kind of the last process where they said, oh yeah, we'll cover these radios, but not these ones. So, mobile command radios, in consulates, they'll cover, but not portable radios. And so there was just some logistical things that we need to work out before we could sit in front of you and say, this is where we're at.
Commissioners, questions?
I do not.
Deborah, there's a second grant request, and that is the mainstay technology request.
That's right.
Yes. Ready to talk about that one?
One moment, please. Will we need separate motions?
Yes, I would say so. So they're seeking permission to apply for both of these.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to accept the first grant request to update and upgrade the command center. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. It's unanimous. That takes care of the first request.
The second one, we've talked about this for years. It's Mainstay Technology is the vendor. It's for network separation. So this is something the sheriff has talked about, at least with me, and I know publicly, the importance of a separated network for the sheriff's department. One of the big things with that is that many years ago, we decided to switch to a sole server here at the county. With CJIS compliance, which is the compliance that we use for our software to make sure that we are cybersecurity safe. That makes us very different than the rest of the county. As we kind of deal with the ever-changing world of cybersecurity, we felt that this opportunity to apply for the grant to have network separation is a good opportunity for the sheriff's department to separate that and have our own server. We have some other projects that we're working on to do a regional IMC platform. This also assists with that to make sure that server is unique to us, and we can have all the guidance from CJIS to keep all the compliances up to date on our server. The goal of this project would be, at the end of it, we'd have our own network, our own servers, and our own backup solutions for the sheriff's department, and separate from the IT portion with the county. Would also free up space on the county's server to expand in any way that they could possibly have to expand.
And this grant would be through who, what, where? Because all I see is just a quote from Mainstay.
Yep. So we're still working on this grant. I apologize that I didn't have it tonight. It's the exact same funding program as the other grant through Homeland Security with the same expenditure time frame and all that. So the information you have in front of you is kind of lists all the goals that I just talked about and some of the phases of that program. It's already the vendor that we use. Like I said, the sheriff's been talking about this for many, many years. And we looked at this opportunity to hopefully expand that IT portion for us and have our own server.
Am I correct in that the current infrastructure that we have at the sheriff's department IT network is shared with the county? Does create some CJIS compliance, let's say, concerns?
It creates some concerns, yes. I think that's the appropriate way to put it.
Any questions?
And the amount of that one, I think that's a 62,894.31.
And when is the deadline for this
It's the
application?
same exact deadline, so December 22nd.
So if you submit the grant,
Mhm.
if we approve the grant request, you submit the grant is accepted, you receive the funding. Going forward over the next few years, is there a maintenance cost out of your department's pocket to maintain this equipment?
Yes, we still have to maintain it. We have to come up with a plan to continue to maintain this. So it would be done, again, either through my department or through the IT. We would still have to weed out those options. It's another piece of hardware that we have within this complex. Specifically, we'd find a place to put it that meets the CJIS compliance. So limited access, so on and so forth. One of the things that we look at with this system is, yes, we do have to keep it updated. Yes, there's a cost to that, but it's the same cost that we're already paying for another server. So we're virtualized in the other server. There's still the same licensing issues. There's still the same processes that, all the malware and things like that. That all still has to be maintained. It's all done by licensing and all that. We still bear the same costs associated with that. Yeah, but again, there is still a physical plant portion of it that does cost. We also looked at over the last couple of years, I've talked to the county administrator about the expansion of our current IT infrastructure here, and we've talked about increasing the SAN and everything else that's associated with that. If we came off that server that's currently here at the county, that would free up a significant amount of space for the growth within the county. So there's going to be a cost savings with that, if you will, just born on us removing our data from there and putting it onto our own server. So again, if you look at the ARPA requests that the project requests that were done, part of that was I had requested to have an IMC and network separation integration put anyways. This is another funding source that we can tap into that has kind of blossomed within a short period of time. And just like all the other New Hampshire Homeland Security grants that are posted, we always seem to get them and they have 4 weeks or less to get everything done. So we try to plan for them. But again, it never works out like it really wants to when we come to you kind of not exactly complete. But again, this is for the, what we're asking is just the permission to apply for it. If they accept it and they give us the okay to accept that money, you folks, we come before you again, you make that decision if we're gonna go forward and you accept the money and then we move forward from there. So even if it sounds like a good idea now, we do it, we do some more research, find out it's gonna cost way too much to maintain it, way too much to do whatever, and it's no longer to the best interest of the county. Then when we sit before you, we can either make that pitch as we thought this was gonna be good, it's not, or hey, listen, still sounds good, what do you think? And then you all make that decision at that time. It buys us a little more time, but we don't wanna miss this window.
There's also there's no negative effect if we choose not to accept it. So Homeland Security doesn't look at our next grant we apply for in a year or two and say, well, they didn't accept the last one. There's no black mark on that for not accepting.
Discussion, commissioners, on the second grant request.
No, I mean, it's, bring up the CGIS compliance issue because I think at some point it's going to become a much larger concern, and it's going to be moved towards required. So I think there's an opportunity for grants to fund the hardware piece of that we should absolutely.
And I'll just add, Commissioner Taylor, that it is a grant. There's certainly no additional cost to the county. And I'll also add on that technology is so rapidly changing and evolving. And when you have a system, for example, the command center system, the equipment they're using, it's 17 years old. That's considered to be a long time. It's almost a generation. So I would move that we accept this second grant application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries, it's unanimous. Deputy Sheriff, I know how laborious and painstaking, tedious grant applications can be, so I thank and commend you for having the patience. I know you have a lot of man hours in preparing both grant requests. I'm sure you've been ably assisted by the sheriff, but thank you. It's not really easy work, a lot of paperwork.
Yes, one of our part-timers has been helping out drastically with this, so he deserves most of the credit. Sure.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
Deputy Frank Jones. So he's helped us out with these grants as well. And, again, we are aggressively looking for funding, as we've said over this year, and our department is looking to be progressive. So that's what we're doing. And we're trying to capture everything that's whole community. So that's where we're at.
And please pass along the board's gratitude to Frank as well. Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
And next up.
So, Commissioner,
Yes, please.
I was just wondering if I could bring up one more topic just as an update from a previous
Yes.
conversation. It has to do with the current radio system that we're in the process of building, if you will. So I received quotes. This would be the second quote from Two-Way Communications, which is our current vendor. They're the ones that will be contracted by Motorola to do all the installation and tower work and all that. Right now, Motorola has given us their second proposal. We pushed back the first one with some questions and comments, things. So they did some adjustments. We're pretty happy. I did send the entire process down to, or the entire proposal down to the state to have them take a look at it, as well as a couple other radio people that I'm in tune with to say, what do you see that's not here or that we should be concerned with? So far, the feedback that I got back was everything looks in line and right on topic as what we need in order to build our system here to be an ideal system. I did forward that information up to the county administrator, and I believe that it's been sent to Primex now for review. The only concern that I have is that I know, based on Motorola letting us know that effective January 1st, they're looking at a 10 to 13% increase in all products and services that have not already been in contract. Well, that puts us in kind of a precarious situation here, as I said before you, saying, The project right now is 1.8 million and $9,000 is what the total project comes out to. If we don't have a signature on there to secure this by December 31st, then we may face that 10 to 13% increase in this project. So I come before you to let you know that, and also to solicit any comments or feedback as to how you want me to proceed or what you want me to do with this.
Deborah?
I would, I think one question is, tonight when you, and it may just be mincing words, but I want to make sure it's clear whether it's Motorola contracting with Two-Way
Yes,
or it's the county contracting with Two-Way.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question.
it's Motorola contracting with Two-Way. So
Okay.
they're, even though that Two-Way is our current vendor, they know our system. So Motorola has asked them to do what they call the civil work. So that's all the installation and all that stuff.
Because this is the first time I'm hearing Two-Way in this conversation.
Yep, so Motorola has asked them to do that. So Motorola initially,
Motorola made their presentation.
correct,
I thought they were pretty clear in saying this was a Motorola project and we're doing it start to finish.
it is.
And we're not gonna use Two-Way.
No, well, so Two-Way is
At least that's
their,
how I understood the presentation.
okay, so I didn't hear that. What I heard was that Motorola assumes all the liabilities with the Motorola project. So everything is set by Motorola. They're the ones that contract out. If we said we don't want Two-Way, Motorola would say, okay, we have to authorize the next authorized vendor to come in and install it. So the Motorola people themselves, so Scott Cruikshank does not climb towers and all that. He contracts out whoever is an authorized Motorola dealer. So they have said, because we already have contracts with Two-Way, they already know all of our sites and everything that we're dealing with here. And they were the original architects of our current system. They felt that it was most appropriate to keep them on the hook as the Motorola representation. So Motorola is assuming the entire project, and Two-Way is their installation people that they are hiring to do this. But there are two separate like quotes that come from them. So there's the civil side of it, of what it would cost for the installation portion. And then there's the hardware and component side of it that Motorola specifically puts forward saying, this is the system.
It definitely sounds different than what we heard, at least what I heard, the original presentation.
I can only tell you what they're telling me, so.
I
that's-
understand.
Yep.
I can only tell you what I remember hearing, and I don't remember a Two-Way discussion. I clearly remember Motorola sitting here and making it perfectly clear that it was Motorola.
They assume
doing
everything.
it all.
Yep.
And now Two-Way is, and not that I have anything to say about Two-Way, it's just, seems to be a new variable in the conversation that I hadn't heard before.
So Two-Way is the Motorola representative, so they,
I understand that.
Yep.
But I thought the representative was pretty clear in saying that they were doing it, but I may have misheard that.
So you're saying Two-Way was doing it?
No,
Motorola was doing it? but
Motorola
Two-Way
came in and
is
said
subservient.
you're doing business directly with Motorola. We're not using a third party that would be installing Motorola stuff. Motorola, it's our project, we're doing it. It's how I remember the conversation.
It sounds like Motorola is subcontracting Two-Way.
Yes.
that's exactly what they're doing.
Right,
That-
but
that's-
and my only point is, that's different information than what was presented when the project was first laid out by Motorola.
And Scott Cruikshank is still saying, the Motorola head is still saying that it's their project, it's Motorola's project. They control Two-Way, they do everything with them. They're just the installation people. So again, how they subcontract out, again, we dealt directly with Motorola. Whoever they reach out to is, that's how they run their business. But they've informed us that Two-Way is going to be the crew that's going to do the installation of the products that Motorola is supplying, and Motorola is the umbrella. So they assume all responsibility of this system working, and all the guarantees implied therein are based on Motorola. So in essence, Two-Way has no real, they're looking at Motorola and saying, we're doing whatever you tell us to do.
So we won't be the contract, you shared the contract with Two-Way. That'll be a contract between Motorola and Two-Way.
I believe so.
All right,
So they're just saying that what it costs for their services to do what Motorola is asking them to do is this amount. So the total amount is,
all right. That's all. I just want to make sure I don't have two
9,000.
contracts to
and I
sign.
can, no, I believe it's only one contract, and I can make sure that before it all gets in front of you as contracts, that we have that down packed. Because we shouldn't be contracting with Motorola for anything other than if we're gonna do continual maintenance or whatever they're gonna do.
Two-Way.
Two-way, sorry, two-way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure we granted a single source waiver.
Yes, single source Motorola.
Motorola.
yep, true. So they're just the rent, they're just the defaults, they're authorized Motorola
Right.
retailers or whatever, so I don't, yeah, we're not buying any equipment off of Two-Way.
Okay with that? Okay. Hunter?
When did we find out about this potential increase in cost? Just sudden?
Yeah, actually, when was it, last week?
Last week.
I think it was last week, they sent us a message saying, just so all of our customers, actually, I could probably tell you exactly when it came in. What's her name? Kelly.
Okay, but first you'll have to unlock your device.
No, thanks.
But there again, if I recall, I thought that we as a board approved the entire project at 1.8,
You did.
right? And we asked for appropriation of the first installment.
500,000,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be due by the end of the year, so I mean, I think that there shouldn't be any reason why we can't sign a contract for $1.8 million.
So this actually came in November 22nd. Is when the first signal of that they're looking at notification that due to the national inflation, all pricing on equipment will be increased by 10 to 12% as of January 1st. We haven't received the exact percentage as of yet. However, we wanted to inform you as soon as we made it aware. And I believe I probably have another email from one of the reps that says a definitive time.
Deborah, what's the safest way to prevent the county from having to pay a 10, 12, 30% increase in 2022?
Sign the contract before December 31st.
Okay. You don't have that contract ready?
No, we have it. We want to have our legal people at Primex review it. They're reviewing it for us.
And I want to find out too about the two-way thing, because if that's a concern, I want it to be addressed before we sign anything, because it's a significant amount of money and I want to get that taken care of, so.
So, yeah, but I think I think we're all set. We'll make sure there has to be a non-appropriation clause in there. I haven't read it's 93 pages, so I haven't read all of it yet, but Primex has it, and we'll make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And then ask for authorization to sign the contract. And, I see a point. You're not gonna have another meeting before December 31st.
That's why I bring it up at this meeting, just to.
So.
Would you
what
authorize
signatures are
it
required?
pending?
Will your signature be required?
You could authorize me, you could authorize the sheriff.
Would all three commissioners be required to sign? before
No,
the
you can
vote?
authorize one commissioner as long as you will be available to come in and sign.
When do you think the contract will be ready?
Yeah, I don't want to say much earlier than the 31st. This is going to be really rushed. But we won't be here on the 31st, so we'll say the 30th.
Yeah. I'm wondering, commissioners, if we should authorize the county administrator to sign on the board's behalf. This way, we don't have to worry about any of us being available to sign before New Year's Eve. I know I will be away for a few days after Christmas, so I can sign up to next Thursday. The county complex is closed Christmas Eve. And I could sign that Monday after Christmas, but the contract may not be ready. And I'm sure that my fellow commissioners have plans over the holidays as well. So I don't want to obligate them to have to come in and sign the document. But we need to make sure we don't miss the boat here. So let's get it right now. Hunter?
I'm just wondering, would it be better for the county administrator to do it, or, I mean, the sheriff is in communication, not taking I mean, everything is coming through your office. Not
Sure,
bothered.
but one of the things is I'm not a person from a county that signs into contract with anything. So I think that would be I don't think that I should be the one to be signing anything because I don't work for the commissioners and I'm my own office. So I think that it would be inappropriate for me to sign that. I could sign as a secondary signature, but I don't think it would be appropriate for me to be a bear signer.
I think the safest thing, Deborah, is for the board to authorize the county administrator to sign on our behalf, if the commissioners are comfortable with that. Otherwise, there's a short window when any of us can come in and sign, and I don't want to miss that window because somebody's away or can't come in or it's snowing or whatever.
Is that a motion?
I'm comfortable with it.
I make a motion to authorize the county administrator to sign the sheriff's contract on the Board of Commissioners' behalf. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. It's unanimous. Deborah, thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy
Don't forget your
Sheriff,
donation, give
Oh, yes.
your donation.
Okay. The final thing we have tonight is the sheriff has been in contact with Barnstead Police Department. They've kind of seen all the work we've done with our Humvee, getting out to parades and other such events. They reach out to the sheriff. They have a Humvee that they would like to give us. The difference between their Humvee and ours is that theirs has lights in it, it's been painted, it's much cleaner looking. So we're looking for permission to accept that before we talk to the Barnstead chief to make sure that you guys are okay with us accepting another Humvee to be used as an emergency response vehicle if we had a major incident, flood or something that you need something to get through deep water or something, and to use it for public relations like we have done with ours recently.
Commissioner,
I don't believe in looking gift horse in the mouth. Free is a good price.
What's the maintenance cost on our current Humvee?
So the maintenance cost is completely out of our maintenance budget that we asked for. Every time that something breaks in that, we look at it as a separate situation. We're not looking for any added money out of the maintenance. We would use that all out of our current maintenance budget. And again, if something broke on it, we would evaluate whether it was worthy of being fixed at that time, or if we, transfer it or send it.
This year, we've spent nothing on the Hummer.
Yeah.
So there's been no expense on that Hummer with the exceptions of a inspection. So, and that thing has sat actually behind our garage for like 8 years. So really it didn't, we haven't incurred any real costs associated with it. And again, just like the chief deputy said, we weigh whether or not, because it's not a primary response vehicle, it's more of a public relations and a secondary response vehicle if we need one. So we weigh that option whether we're gonna fix it or not. So we do have like an electrical issue right now going on with the current Hummer. So with the current one, yeah. So the PCM box, which is it's your preventative control module, that thing isn't working quite right. It's if we were to buy one right now online, it's $500. So we're weighing our option as to whether or not it's something we want to fix right away or not. I have a lot of public support, so I've had multiple business owners offer to help fix that thing at no cost to the county. It's been so we call it this year it's been the Hummer Grinch Mobile, and we've been in several parades and all that stuff. So we actually won the Laconia parade for floats. So it's been pretty interesting.
What condition is Barnstead's Humvee?
As far as we know, it's in running condition. They just don't use it, and it's taking up their parking lot space. They're just not using it, and they said, "Hey, listen, we've seen what you've been doing. We like what you're doing. We'd like to help contribute that and get this thing out of our parking lot." So they just have no real use for it at this given time. So, and I look at it as it's a free acquisition. They got it for free. They had donors that helped fix it up back then, and again, I thought it was appropriate for us to say, "Hey, listen, we have this opportunity for a piece of gear. We either take it or we don't. Worst case scenario, we have a parts rig and a rig that works good." So, if we were to look at that aspect.
The other nice thing about the surplus military vehicles, there is a government program out there that you can search through a website and get used parts that are surplus from the military. either free or at a very significant reduced rate. So, the sheriff and I have looked at that website to try to find the control module for the ignition, and we haven't been able to find one yet, but if major things break or something needs repaired, there's several avenues to look at to get that fixed and get it running.
If it's got to sit behind the garage for a year before we fix it, then so be it. It's like I said, it's not a primary response vehicle. So if we had to do that, then that's what we do. But you got to think, the current Hummer that we have is a 1985.
What year is this one?
I believe it's the same year.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They all came as kind of a big group. I think the state of New Hampshire got a couple hundred of them from the military back several years ago.
And what do we have for space to store this vehicle? And how does it impact maintenance? So where would it be? Where do we have for storing?
Well, we park it out back like we have in the past.
Out back where?
Yeah, out back
Next to
here,
the-
like right next to the
Maintenance shed.
maintenance shed out here, out the backside of the property.
I mean, I hear free, I understand, but my concern is, are we inheriting somebody else's problem to take another 1985 Humvee that may have a major issue that is gonna sit in our backyard?
Yeah, according to the chief.
As you just stated, for a year and not move, so I mean, is that the best use of our space?
Well, it's probably more of a ceremonial vehicle. It'd be nice to see it in next year's Christmas parade. I think Commissioner Waring that if it becomes problematic, if it's taking up valuable space, if it becomes more trouble than it's worth, it may or may not. But as Commissioner Taylor has said, it is a gift. And I'm inclined to accept it, with the proviso that if it becomes a headache next year, or if it's unable to function in next year's Christmas parade, then perhaps we should donate it to another state department. So is there a motion to accept this donation?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries.
Thank you.
unanimous.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much for your
Sheriff.
time.
Thank you.
And we'll know by January 1st if the Farmstead PD has, because their select board still has to approve that. So, but they told me January 1st is their target date. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Deborah. Next up, we have some discussion on ARP spending for next year. Take that out of my file here. My first question to the commissioners is, we had discussed ARP spending at the end of about 6 or 8 weeks ago. And I believe Commissioner Waring stated, I thought quite properly, that any further disposition of the ARP funding should wait until the Board of Commissioners had crafted the 2022 budget for fiscal year 2022. So now before us, we have a list of requests. And my first question to the board is, when would you want to go forward with the next round of requests to the executive committee and or the full delegation?
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, Commissioner Taylor, are for us to go over this while we're all here together in public, in a public setting. And unless we object to any particular request here, perhaps pick out a few that we can submit to the delegation for an appropriation. My question to you both is, would it be better to wait until the budget is completely resolved or to go forward with appropriation requests while the budget is in working progress?
My thoughts would be that we wait until the budget is finally passed, and certainly we, have this discussion with the executive committee as well as.
On the Jaguars firing Urban Meyer overnight.
Crosstalk.
Right, so to present our intended plan the executive committee and then ultimately the full delegation for final approval in 22 budget, which has projected $9 million spend and the $9 million recognition of the revenue to offset. And I think that we've got just shy of $9 million laid out here in this plan. And I think some of these pieces are a bit, there's some that I think maybe some moving parts, right? One is the sheriff's department separation of the IT networks. Some things might move, so I don't think we're at least I'm not at a point yet to say let's commit to these projects. I think I want to make sure that the executive committee and the delegation is in support of the projects that, or at least the first shot across the bow of the projects we're looking for 22.
I would agree with Warren on that. I think that would be the best timing.
I think the
May I-
administrator.
Please.
Stop squeaking and twitching. I just want, so this, is it your intention then that a list like this be submitted to the executive committee when they get to that line? They're gonna get to that part of the budget and wanna know what comprises those numbers. And this would be this is the potential projects being considered at this point that,
Yeah, I would say so.
okay.
It's my 2 cents anyways.
So you want to furnish all 18 members of the delegation with this worksheet?
Well, initially it would go to the executive committee. It's part of the budget process at this point. It's in the budget, it's in your budget recommendation. This is the supporting document that explains what you would plan to spend the money on preliminarily, and then, yeah, it would be in their court to determine after that.
Okay. So once the budget is resolved
Well, during the budget.
during the budget process, Commissioner Waring, when would you consider it appropriate? The three of us are going to agree on a wish list of some of these pieces that we're comfortable collectively, unanimously going forward for delegation to request the appropriation so Deborah can cut checks to these different entities. What would be the timetable while they're in mid-process working on the budget, or while they're in the latter stages of working on the budget?
Well, I think, right, so we have $9 million that's in the budget proposed now, and if that stays there and it's appropriated, then, you know, once the budget is set, then we can start to commit to the projects and get purchase orders and contracts and get funds flowing.
I know that Chairman Sylvia and Executive Committee Chairman Howard tend to work quickly on the line items. So we could conceivably have a completed budget by the 1st of February, perhaps? Is that realistic? Hunter?
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I mean, I think last year, I think it was pretty close. to
Early
that.
in February, I don't remember. It was
Mike, do you
early.
remember? It was pretty early, right? February.
Because I think we all should contribute to the first installment of requests of this money before the executive we need to agree on. And maybe tonight's not the night to start discussing it, but certainly our January meetings, it might be more timely to do so. Okay, all right.
And I was thinking that this is, the reason it's in the budget in a lump sum like that, because you hadn't, you know, you have all these proposals and ideas that you're looking at and considering. But it would avoid the need for a supplemental appropriation.
Right.
So once you have the appropriation, then you can take your time and have any meetings that you want before you decide, yes, we're ready to go with this, this, and this.
So it would be my recommendation to the board going forward that we respond with some alacrity on these decisions in January based on the point that the sheriff made earlier, in that he's already looking at a program we agreed to fund could be spiking by inflation up to 13%. So ostensibly, a lot of these projects, I'm looking at, for example, the Gunstock parking lot, $1 million. And I think that's something that the board would look favorably on going forward. I think the delegation would look favorably on it. But the fact remains, with the price of asphalt, labor and all of that, supply shortages, that estimate could balloon. The gun stock's cost could go from $1 million to 1.2 or 3 or 1.4 if we don't get that submission to the delegation as early as is convenient.
Right, so I mean,
And I cite that as an example on many
but I believe
requests.
that we are, right, so by giving them this list, we're giving it to the delegation, and the $99 appropriated, then we as the Board of Commissioners can then expend the money. We don't need to go back before the delegation, that's why it is that we put $9 million in the budget.
Deborah, that's a
That's
working
right.
model.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay, I'm good with that. That would be a more streamlined way to do this. All right then, so let's see where we're at here. Any further discussion on our spending for, any further discussion required tonight? Probably not. We've gone over this a few times. Okay. All right, is there any other business? Deborah, do we have any other business?
I think
Shelley,
the nursing home administrator
I
has
see a hand
another.
raised. Director Richardson is here. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I wanted to just quickly take this opportunity to share with you a coincidental finding that I had. While I was looking for nursing travel agencies, I came across a service that is out there that provides physician and nurse practitioner services, which I know in the past I've talked with how we've had difficulty finding a medical director and also physician services. I did a previous mailing and I did one that was 25 to 50 mile radius. We got no response. I did another one that was over 50 to 100. I want to say in May. We ended up getting one response. We had an attending join us for a month. And he had difficulty with finding billing services and malpractice insurance. So looking at succession planning coming ahead, because we only have one doctor for the facility. This is something that I'd like to investigate a little bit more. They did a preliminary discussion with me about what they have for services. And they were going to put together a contract and kind of a prospectus of what services they have and what that would look like for our facility. So I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up that this is out there, and I think it's a huge advantage for us to look into.
Agreed.
Okay. But I know time-wise, because there's a time when you guys have the meetings and to do different things. So I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up.
How soon, Shelley, thank you for that, by the way. How soon do you think you'll have some hard information as to what the contract consists of, what their promises are? and what
They
the
were
time-
putting stuff together and they were hoping to get me something by Monday, this coming Monday. So I'm hoping that, it will show me in true time what they would have available to us, how much it would be and when they could start.
Okay, so you might have information for the board by the first January meeting possibly?
Yes, definitely.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there any other business, Deborah?
I don't have any other business except the non-public session.
Public comments? Do we have comment from the public? Anyone zooming, any comment? Seeing none, is there a motion to go into non-public?
Move that we go into non-public in accordance with RSA 91A3, Roman 2, A and E.
I will second that, and that would be a roll call, Commissioner Waring?
Yes.
Commissioner Waring,
Yes.
Commissioner Spanos.
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes.
Are in non-public session.